Hey, Sunny here. So we're going to continue our lesson on chord harmony. So now we're going to talk about how we take the scale, break down into chords. So let's take the C major scale and kind of go through that, because you're going to apply this to all different key. So the C major scale, if you start from the root note, the first chord start from the root note, which is the C, is always a major chord. So the C major. And I assume you know bar chord, so I'm not going to cover the bar chord shape. But you know what is a bar chord on a major bar chord is. So C major. The second note of C major scale is a D note, and it's always in minor when you start a chord from the second note. So you got a D minor scale, D minor chord. Okay, and the third chord in the C diatonic major scale is an E note, so that would is minor again. So it's E minor. And if you recall what I talked about in putting scale together, fourth note is always half step up from the third note in the major diatonic scale. So the next note is F note, and building on the F note is always in major in the C scale. Okay. Next note is G, and this G major. Okay, the next note is a sixth note, which is a male relative minor, and based on that, and you know it's a minor chord, so it's A minor. Okay, and the last one, right before we return back to C, the last note of the scale is a B note, and this is this one is different. This is a B diminished chord. Instead of playing up here, I'm gonna play it up here instead. Basically, it's the same. I'll play it up here. And the notes are, for this shape you're probably not familiar with, is a A2, D3, G4, and B3. The reason why it is diminished because it's a flat 5 here. The D3, which is the F note, is a flat 5 of the B note on the A string on the second fret. Back to C. So that's the whole scale. So you got C, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminish. Back to C. So that's the patterns are always going to be like that. So you have the major, minor, minor, and followed by two more major, 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 minor. Again, the sixth note is minor, and seventh note is always diminished, and back to your root note. So you can start from any scale. That's the pattern. So I can play, let's say, D major diatonic scale. So if we start from the D note in the key of D, the first chord would be D major, right? And the second chord would be E minor, and the third chord is F sharp minor. Okay, and the fourth chord is G major, fifth chord A major, sixth chord is a B minor, seventh chord is diminished, so it would be a C sharp diminished. Back to D major. So it's major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminish, start over again. So take the same example. You can apply it to let's just say a key of G. Key of G start from the G note. So the first chord would be G major, G major chord. Second note of G is A, so it's A minor. Third note of G is B, so it's B minor. fourth note is C, so C major. Fifth note in the G scale is a D, so it'll be D major. Sixth note, which is a relative minor of G, would be E minor. So instead of playing E minor bar chord at 12th position, I could just play the E minor open chord. Okay. And then you have the F sharp diminished scale. You can basically play like that, and back to G again. So that again applies to no matter where you are. That's how those chords are put together. So when you're listening to the songs, one way to determine what key you are playing in is to know how many sharps and how many flats are in the scale or in the song you can hear. Again, it goes back. I talked about in my one lesson. It's called circle of fifth and circle of fourth. That's how you can tell how many sharps and how many flats to determine the key. The second way to do it is what I just talked about. So it depends on the chords. If it's minor, major chord, or diminished, then you kind of know what key you are playing in. So if you hear if I'm playing D minor and E minor a lot, since those two minor chords are together, you can kind of figure it out. It might be a C major. The song's in the key of C major. So if you hear a E minor and then you hear the D major and the C major, you can probably, if you look at the fretboard and the way you play it, you probably can figure out that's a G in the key of G. Because the fourth chord of G and the fifth chord of G is major, and the sixth chord on the G is E minor. So between those three chords, that we kind of determine it's in the key of G. And once you determine that, then you can improvise using different scales to improvise over that. So that's the basic chord harmony of how to figure out the key and how to improvise and how to design your improvisation over. We can also talk about seventh chord. Seventh chord is similar thing. So let's talk about seventh chord in the key of C. For example, so key of C, the first root note on C will be a C major seventh chord. Just like C major chord, but we're playing C major 7. And the second note was a D note, would be a D minor, would be a D minor 7. Third note is E in the key of C, so it would be E minor 7. Okay, fourth note is major, so we're doing F major 7th. Fifth note is again, now fifth note is different. When you're playing seventh chord, instead of playing major 7th, we'll do a dominant 7. So it's a G dominant 7. And I'll put the fingerings of the chords in the description of the video. Okay, now it sounds really strange, right? Basically, you have a major 3rd and a minor 7th in this chord. So once you hear, they kind of have to resolve back to C. So this is a really important chord. If you hear a dominant chord, then you kind of know what key you're playing in. So if I'm playing G dominant chord, which is the 5th chord of C, the 5th chord of a major scale is always a dominant 7th chord. So if I play dominant 7th chord, a G dominant 7th chord always tells me is a C chord. It's a key of C. All right. The 6th chord is A minor. That's relative minor. So we play A minor 7th. Okay, and the last one is B diminished. Oop. Because the seventh chord, we'll play it B half diminished. And back to C. So that's the pattern. Any key you play, if you're playing seventh chord, it's always major seventh, followed by 2 minor seventh, and then followed by 2 more major seventh chords, which is the fourth and fifth note. And then the relative note, which is a sixth chord, would be your minor seventh again, followed by half diminished chord, which is a seventh note, and back to your root note, to major seventh. So again, this major seventh, C major, minor, third note minor, fourth note major, seventh, fifth note dominant seventh, sixth note minor seventh, seventh note half diminished, and back to C. And the reason why I'm calling it half diminished, because we're not playing a full diminished chord. We're only playing a flat 5 and followed by the minor seventh. So the B chord, the B half diminished, is got a flat 5, which is a F note, and the minor seventh of B, which is the A note. I'm playing it on the G string, second fret, followed by perfect fifth. I'm sorry, followed by the major minor third of B, which is a D note on the B string on the third fret.